Welcome back to the Design Build Hunt podcast, which is presented by Whitetail Partners. Today, we are talking about trail camera mistakes that will cost you. Well, Sam, welcome back to the show.
Good to be here, Josh. Thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Today, we're talking about trail camera mistakes that cost you. And you know what? I'm not sure I'm the guy qualified to be talking much about this.
We're both qualified. We've made a ton of mistakes.
I like I said off air, I keep finding new ways to make them.
Hey, I know it. Me too. And you get to the point where you laugh and you're just like, I knew that was going to be a problem. Why did I do that?
Yeah, why did I set it there? I've got one spot in particular. I had to turn the camera off. I put it on the edge of a clear cut. Great spot. Got some good pictures, good buck intel. Happy with what I got, but I got 10,000 pictures of the sun coming up and the sun going down because I didn't have that thing facing north, and it's right on the edge. So it catches all the shadows from the taller timber out on the, hitting the edge of this big clear cut. And I knew better. When I was putting it there, I was like, this is not a good spot. This should not, I should face this 90 degrees that way.
Uh-huh.
I didn't do it.
Hey, I found the workaround for that one. So, and you have working hours, and I'm running, I can look at the hours and turn off those 3 hours where the sun's at the angle that it hits. Now, you don't get any pictures during that time, but you could adjust your working hours.
Interesting. What is that, a specific camera with that feature, or?
Yeah, so the cameras I'm running are the Tacticam, the Reveal app, and what I love about it is that feature. You can go in there and if you have that problem, like I said, these 3 hours where the sun angle is triggering it, you can turn off the working hours. I don't know if that was a new update this year or if that's something they've had in the past, but in doing that, I'm able to turn off those hours. In fact, I had to do it with one of my cameras just the other day. That's why it was fresh in my mind when I said I have the solution.
Man, I need to check that out because I did not know that.
Continue to learn, right?
Always learning.
Technology continues to improve. I mean, I do like those cameras. You turn them on, you connect them, and man, you can just dump them from there. And the only thing you can't do is adjust your camera. If that was something we could figure out, then we'd, I think, have it made.
Yeah, I think, man, an adjustable camera that you can change it once it's already up. I think that would be a cool feature.
Yeah, I'm sure they're hearing it. They're coming for us. So
yeah, well, I'll have to reach out and tell
them. You gotta work out the human error, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Sam, let's talk about some of those mistakes that can cost us, especially when it comes to deer season. Mm-hmm. And then I also want to touch on in this episode. So if you're thinking, well, I don't want to hear about trail camera mistakes, folks, that's all right. I want to talk about a little bit of season-long strategy, how that develops for you and shifts throughout the year. I've moved more towards running my cameras pretty much 12 months of the year. Mm-hmm. Different reasons. Sam, I know your favorite pastime is turkey hunting. And so,
love turkey.
I know how passionate you are about hunting turkeys, but I run mine for turkeys in the spring, and getting some deer early spring is just a bonus, but lots of different things. So what are some of those mistakes that maybe you have made in the past, and I'll share some of mine as well, that just keep costing us?
Well, I think the first one that comes to mind for me is just always having the same spots. And now my property is pretty well defined. I have it all tuned in and where I want it. So a lot of those cameras are automatic, I know that they're going to go there. But what I'm continuing to press myself to do is say, hey, find a few new spots. You might learn something, and continue to say it just doesn't have to continue to be in that one spot. And maybe you're going to learn a weakness. Like this hunter access route, man, I got deer moving through there. That's a problem. What's going on here? So you might learn something that's hindering you, and something you can shore up versus maybe a new pattern that you might also discover, a bedding area. And that's what I like SD cameras for too. Is just, hey, I'm going to dump this here. I'm probably going to forget about it. That's another thing is as we get older, right?
Yep.
And you have a
Yep.
lot of cameras. I'm probably going to forget about this, and when I find it, it'll be exciting because I'll take it, and it may have been 12 months at that point, and take that camera and go see what it's done for me.
Yeah, man, I stuck one of those soaker cameras out right last November, and I stuck it out. Actually, I think it was Halloween or the day before, and I was just gonna let it sit in this spot. It's not a spot that I've ever hunted. I'm just gonna leave it there, just see what's going on. There's not a lot of sign in the area, but there was one rub, and I was like, it's a nice terrain feature. Let's see what's going on. In November and December, probably every other to every third day, I was getting a good buck on camera
Hmm.
with a total of probably 4 bucks moving through this place. Almost zero deer sign. Do not have a good reason other than it's a good terrain feature for them to be
Mm-hmm.
using. So, yeah, find those new spots. Don't always stick with the old tried and true. I mean, have cameras there too, but have a couple of extra that you can throw out on a new spot because you better believe that is informing my hunting strategy this year. This was a spot I
Mm-hmm.
thought for sure was just useless, but I threw one in there, and lo and behold, I could have had could have had a pretty stellar season had I thrown a hunt or two in that spot.
Yeah, and I would say with that same theme too is if you have areas of your property that maybe go unhunted or a neighbor's property, what they'll allow you, maybe they'll allow you to put a camera up. You can't hunt there, but you can put a camera up. You have a friendly relationship. Go put some of those scout type situations where, for me, like my big buck from last year, um, I'm still searching for him. He has a totally different summer location than he does coming into fall, and I know about where he'll show up and when he'll show up, but right now I'm kind of searching the perimeter to see where he could be.
When do you think he's going to move in?
That'll be second week of September, right about
Second week.
hunting season.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you've got a little bit of time. He's waiting for the shift, really.
Yeah, that it's when things start to that fall starts to be in the air and things start to change. That's when he'll show up and he'll be on my property. That pretty pretty certain that's what's going to happen. But you're always just a little tentative to get that first picture and make sure because we found both sheds from him and I'm betting he's pushing 180, 190 this year.
Oh my goodness! So
Yeah.
you
So,
found the sheds in a food plot, right?
though, yeah, Jake and I found both sheds 20 yards from each other in the middle of a plot.
Wow. How old do you think he is this year?
5.
5-year-old. Okay. All right. Well, I remember. I guess it was maybe 2 years ago talking. You were like, I don't have a lot of 4-year-old bucks running around that I can even.
Yeah.
Now here you are with a potential mega giant on your hands.
Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, I'm never holding my breath to see if they're going to be around the next year, but um, it's time I get a picture. Let's put it that way.
Well, if you ever need any help, I will be there in November for a couple of weeks. I mean, I'll have a lot of time that
All right.
I could help you, hunt a little. If you needed a second set of eyes,
Mhm.
just to do some observations. So
We'll have you walk the neighbor's property for me.
you just walk a little bit upwind of some of their bedding thickets. Is that what I'm?
That'd be ideal.
All right, all
Yep.
right. I'll see what I can swing. So I'm gonna talk about one mistake that I made for years and years and years and years and years. Checking SD cameras way too
Mm.
frequently. We would have them on food plots or have them again. We're in the South, so we'd have them on our feeders, and just checking those cameras every 3 to 5 days. I mean, just seeing what's going
Mhm.
on in there, and really um, with the cost of cellular trail cameras these days, there's not a ton of reason not to be running a couple of them. And I know there are guys who are opposed to, hey, I don't, I feel like that removes some of the fair chase angle, whatever. I get
Mhm.
it. There are other reasons that folks may not want to use them, and that's totally fine. But if you don't want to use them or you've got just a lot of SD cameras and you want to keep those running, just stay away from them. You're going to do more
Yeah.
harm than good.
Yeah. Yeah, the one thing I would tell guys that they absolutely have to, or they're from a budget standpoint, that's what they got to run. They aren't going to have cell cams. Go out there when it's raining. To go out there, I've been out in thunderstorms before, and maybe that's not the best idea, but going out, put your raincoat on, go for a walk. It is very quiet, and everything's getting washed away as you do it. I think that's one of your lower impact corrections to doing that, but still, that's a once a month activity for the right place, right time, right situation. Um, it's not something you're going to go in every 3 to 5 days, like you're saying.
Yeah, I was bad about, midday during the hunting season. We're gonna, it's the home property, so we're comfortable. The deer know we're there anyway. They live right around the house, and so, we're gonna go for a golf cart ride in the middle of the day and go grab these
Hmm.
cameras. Probably should tweak that if that's
Yeah.
something you're still doing. So, all right, Sam, another big mistake that cost somebody.
I think one of the mistakes that people make is where the camera is for. So, like, let's say it's a mock scrape as a situation. Think about the direction the deer is coming into that encounter, and where their eyes might glance, where their where the direction they might be pointing. I try to think through that in terms of where I'm going to place that camera. And I have one camera. I love this setup. It is I've never had a picture where a deer is staring at a camera there. It's really enclosed and tight. It's got a box scrape in the middle of it, and the camera's only 10 feet away, 12 feet away. It's super close, but it's up kind of a little bit higher, kind of at an angle, right down on the spot. I get these great up close, awesome pictures. I'll send you a few, Josh, just to take a look at it. But that camera is so well hidden, and it's dark. I mean, because it's really well shaded. I like it. And then the angle of their travel, they never have reason to look up and see where it's at. I've had a lot of success in doing that. But you get that camera that if they look, if the direction they're at a water hole and they look up from their drink and their eyes are right on it, that could be, I think, detrimental. Granted, maybe over the long haul, I do think deer get used to some cameras. They just know they're there or know it's part of the environment. But at the same point in time, I would like to fool them as much as I can.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Settle this for me once and for all, Sam. I have my opinion, and I have come across YouTube videos where someone else who does some whitetail property setup says trail cameras will not ever spook a deer. If your trail camera spooks a deer, it's because you left some scent in the area. It's because of some other thing. It's not the trail camera that spooked the deer. I personally think he's very, very wrong. From thousands and thousands of trail camera photos over the years. What are your thoughts?
Well, I wouldn't have said that last point if I didn't think it mattered. I think that the anything unnatural in their environment, and granted, we do a lot of things to influence, but it's all the intent of it being natural. Uh, Anything unnatural, a physical change, they're going to notice it. And if that physical change has, a man-made object, cameras stands out, especially if they got lights or make sounds or whatever the case might be. It's something that I think is impactful, and we should try and disguise them or make them in less impactful situations. Like, generally, I may be further out. That a camera I mentioned before, I've just been fortunate that this spot, the way it sits, it's pretty good in that way that it's just disguised. Has a good backdrop with the tree it's in. It's kind of in a gnarly tree too. But all those things, the height, I do like to put a camera higher and have a little bit more of a down angle on it. I think that's less intimidating than right at eye level. I certainly don't usually ever have cameras that are less than 6 feet off the ground. My cameras are generally higher. So all those things, I think it does matter. I think it's a simple thing we can do to try and make it less of a hindrance or a scare or concern for the deer. But again, on our well-tuned properties, if it's in the same location for a long, long time, I think it's more forgiving.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree totally. I think that it can depend on a buck's demeanor. I think there are some
Mhm.
bucks that are just less inclined to spook from a red light on a camera. A lot of mine have red light, or that infrared
Mhm. Yeah,
glow. Um, but I have also seen bucks turn absolutely inside out from that
yeah.
camera.
I don't do red light. I've always been black flash. I don't have a single camera that has infrared.
Yeah, I probably need to rethink that. I will say once I get them up and elevated, get them
Hmm.
out of their face just a little bit, it seems like there's a difference in the way they process some of that. But all right, another mistake. This one I keep making over and over again is just the position of that camera facing the sun. So facing
Hmm.
east or west, a southerly facing camera, that one's going to get you in trouble. Like I mentioned earlier, there's that clear cut. I'm getting all the shadows. I'm getting direct sunlight as the sun rises. That one cost me just in the form of getting way too many pictures. I end up not looking through the pictures carefully. Actually, went back through not long ago and found why. Oh, okay, there was a deer on the edge of the food plot. There's a probably a 3-year-old buck on the edge of the or not the food plot on the edge of the clear cut, and he was there. You just couldn't hardly see him back in the shadows. I just assumed it was another shadow trigger, and
Hmm.
kind of disregarded the photo until I was going through and deleting. And so, be careful with the sun and how that's positioned. Sometimes within the timber, you can get away with a little bit more. You've got a little bit more shade and shadow, but as leaves begin to fall off, that's another concern that comes back up. That which way that thing is facing. So, uh,
Hmm.
what's another mistake, Sam? Before we jump
Well,
into
yeah, I think
long-
I think it's pertinent to this time of year. I mentioned it in another podcast we did recently, but getting in and we have put cameras in different locations for different seasons, right? Like in the summertime, we got edges of fields and wide open areas, trying to catch that, the buck in the bean field type situation. As season progresses, we want to have those setups into the timber, into our travel locations. A lot of our hunting designs and plan and strategy is on hunting movements where deer pass through. And we want to know as much information about that movement as we can. But as time has gone on, I like to get to those setups earlier and earlier so that I'm not having to go in and set them up right before I need them. You don't want to be going in early October and putting a camera on a corridor so that you can see what's going on in rut. You want to have that camera in there by Labor Day and make sure it's positioned right. Sometimes there's a return trip. Unfortunately, we make mistakes, just like we're talking about here. We make a mistake on the angle, the this, the that, and we want to make a correction. Well, it's nice to have made that set maybe in August, so you can go in and tweak it in September, so you can just leave it alone through the rut and have it be functioning for you. So I think not getting to those setups sooner can be a mistake. It's still nice to have those cameras on the field edges through the end of velvet and all that, but I'm as time goes on here, I'm more towards getting on those corridors earlier because I think that getting lessening that impact, again, return trips, going into the timber, all those things. I don't want to have to go into the timber after Labor Day if I don't have to, unless I'm hunting.
Right, right. I've I've shifted my strategy as well, putting those things in there a little bit earlier. One of the things that I've actually started doing is I know some scrapes that kind of traditionally open up every year, and I go in and I'll actually put those cameras inside of that scrape so that when it opens up, I can see. There's a particular piece of public land, in fact, that's not too far, and you're pretty familiar with the spot now because I sent you in there last year, and you
Hmm.
didn't kill anything, unfortunately, but I think it was 3 years ago. I'd gone up early. I'd hung a camera on a scrape that traditionally opens up, and there was a very large buck in there, probably 160s to 170s type of deer. Um, and I got to see him opening that scrape up for the first time that year.
Hmm.
What a cool sequence. Now, I unfortunately hunted that spot that morning, missed him by about 45 minutes due to a thunderstorm. It was a very sad event, but it happens. But yeah, get them in there earlier. So let's shift then and pivot just a little bit.
Hmm.
What does your year look like with trail cameras? Maybe we just start at the beginning of the year, work your way on through. What are you doing with your cameras, and what intel are you hoping to gain?
Yeah, so I am leaving my cameras up past hunting season. I want to see survivors. I want to know post season what's going on, how they use the property in the winter. Generally, I am pulling all my cameras probably around February or March, uh, bringing them all in, cleaning them up. Maybe there's an update. Maybe there's some things I need to address with the maintenance and whatnot. Letting them get good and dried out, and all these things, and they're designed to be out. I mean, you can leave these cameras out year round. Plenty of people do. You said that you do, and that's fine too. That's not wrong. It's just been my pattern. I do get them back out again, maybe by June. We're starting to see antler development, and it's good to know how things are functioning. I like working out all those bugs, whether it's a cell signal, a, a another mistake. I'm really good at this one is getting that solar panel in a place that it's not quite getting enough light, and maybe you're not, that setup isn't quite right. Maybe you need an extended life battery in that situation if you're going to keep it. All those things that, the tweaks, okay, I'd really like this camera to be, 3 degrees this way and twist it, the setup of it just a little bit. All that stuff I like to have tuned in so that by the time I'm hitting August, my cameras they're hitting on all cylinders. They're taking the pictures I want to take. And, meanwhile, I got the SD cameras running in spots because that's just easy to throw those cameras all over the place, like we were talking before. And trying to gather information. Where did that buck go? Who's new? What's out there? And casting a wide net. So my cameras are everywhere right now here in late summer. Coming into that shift into fall, my core areas of hunting, this is talking about Labor Day, again, back to some of the conversations we were having before, making sure I have all those core setups exactly how I want them. If I found a buck, I might be zeroing in a little bit on how I might have that set up. I'm maybe moving to that scrape like you described previously, where I'm thinking, okay, this is one he's going to probably start opening up and zeroing in on, making sure, maybe even moving a stand. The cameras might have educated me to that point that, all right, I want to get a stand here, that sort of thing, especially if it's in an area you haven't typically hunted as much, or it's a permission, I have adjacent permission ground, which I can set a stand and hunt it, and then I got to take it down, that sort of thing. So a little bit more flexibility. And by the time I get into October, my cameras are set and they are telling me everything I need to know for when that rut activity starts to pick up. My favorite time, I've been on the podcast and said this time and time again, that pre-rut time frame where deer are laying down sign, that is, I think, one of the best opportunities to go in and take that buck you've been after once you see him make a repeat movement on one of your scrapes, and you go in after him, and that's the time to do it. And with cell cams, that's you're going to know when that is, and that's what I try and do.
Yeah, absolutely. And are you leaving those in place through the rest of the season, or are you going to shift them again for late season? I hear you say, we get into October, they're kind of set, right? Like we, we're hunting a lot of corridors, long lines of buck movement, that kind of thing. Are you going to shift them again for late season to maybe be more reflective of what they were back during the summer? Or are we still concentrating on maybe some of those core areas?
No, thanks for teeing me up, and I missed that. Late season, it's back to food. How are they on the food plots? I might have a plot with 3 cameras on it, just because they might be walking through this third of the plot. They're not walking through the others. And if you only have 1 camera out there, my plots are loaded with cameras toward the end, especially in the very sensitive areas, getting those cell cams there. So I'll make that shift, maybe right around, right before gun season. If I declare the rut to be over, and and yeah, because we all know exactly when the rut starts. You see plenty of people posting. It started today.
Yep.
When I see that the rut activity is done and I'm kind of shifting toward those firearm seasons, I want to have those camera setups made so that transition through the firearm seasons by us. So we have the 9 deer gun season, rifle season, followed by a 10-day muzzleloader. I am looking at that time frame to say I don't want to be that intrusive impact again. As I've stated before, once the guns come out, I am way hands off on my property, just sitting back on the perimeters. But I want those cameras telling me what's going on in those plots. I missed my opportunity last year with late season bow hunt on the big one I was after, from the standpoint that he dropped his antlers a little bit earlier than I wanted, and the cold fronts, it just didn't hit. Like we have some late season antlerless hunts. he was in the plot every day during that antlerless hunt. And I was just at
Gosh.
home. I was just at home crying. And as soon as it ended, the temperature went up and he dropped them.
Oh
So
my
anyway,
goodness.
but yes, back to your point of the cameras, getting them back to food, less on the scrapes, still the water holes, but absolutely those food plots, especially the ones where you have opportunities for firearms.
Right. Right. All right. So we're right here at the end of summer. Coming into September by the time this launches. What do you think guys should be doing with their trail camera strategy right now?
I'm sorry, you said the end of September?
Well, we'll be right around mid-September,
Yeah,
probably maybe
yeah,
beginning of September when this comes in. So
yeah.
we're right before season.
Yeah, and that transition is, we've by that point we're dropping velvet. They are hard horned and starting to get more back into the brush. We talk about getting in, and I've gone earlier, getting into these timber setups. If you haven't made those changes yet, make sure you have those spots covered. Know where your perennial scrapes are. Know where those pinch points are in the timber. That's where you're going to want to get your cameras, in my opinion. I think it's nice to see bucks out on your plots. It's always great to see them use that. But I think more often than not, your best hunting opportunities are on those travel corridors, and that's where your cameras should be.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Sam, I'm going to close this with one more mistake that I didn't think to bring up earlier. It is that over reliance on your trail cameras. It is assuming that your trail cameras have told you everything that there is to know about that spot. It is assuming that no deer ever walked by that camera and didn't get picked up. Maybe he walked behind it. Maybe he was just a little too far away. Don't be over reliant on your cameras. Don't let the cameras. You said this in a previous episode. This is supposed to be fun. And I know for me and for others that I interact with throughout the hunting season, oftentimes we can just get down in the dumps about what the cameras are or are not telling us. If you get him in there 2 days out of a week on a camera, I bet he was in there 3 to 4 times, maybe somewhere close by. And so,
Mm-hmm.
just be aware the cameras are not the hunt. They're not telling you everything that there is to know. They're a helpful tool in the bag, but they are not what hunting is,
Mm-hmm.
from beginning to end. So,
I would tie into that one more point, and
yep.
that is understanding if you have a well-developed property, you know how deer use it. The biggest thing cameras tell me is when the activity is changing. They don't
Mhm.
tell me the spot to go. So I'll see an activity like a daytime movement that's new, and it might not be where I choose to go hunt. It's just, okay, that change is starting to happen. Or I see a little bit of activity. Oh, by the way, 2 days from now, I got a big temperature drop. You're putting together those pieces of information that allow you to make a decision to go hunt somewhere. It's not necessarily that camera location, it's understanding the activity that occurred, and that's occurring all over your property. And maybe you're going then to the right stand for the situation, a wind, a condition, whatever the time of day, whatever the situation is. But I look at cameras, and that's why I love the cell cams, is just picking up that activity. What's the action that's changed, and letting that influence, because that feels more like hunting to me than I saw a buck this morning, I'm going to go hunt there this afternoon.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, folks, we're going to have a resource on our website about camera mistakes and season long camera strategy. You're going to hear a lot of what you heard in today's episode in that, as well as a little bit more added onto it to kind of help you get your trail camera strategy dialed in. Give us a call if you've got questions about your trail cameras, best way to use them, what you should be doing. Sam, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Josh.